All right. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pari Rajakacharya Ashtotara Shri Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pari Rajakacharya Ashtotara Sata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Sachinanda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jaya Shri Rupa Sanata Bhakta Radhanatha Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Amacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Govardhana Shamakun Radhakun Puri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Nath Raj, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, ISKCON Vartma Guru Vrinda Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gora Brahmanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayana Namaskritya.
Narayana Namaskritya.
Naram Jaiva Narottamam.
Naram Jaiva Narottamam.
Devam Saraswatam Vyasam.
Devam Saraswati Vyasam.
Tito Jayam Naridayat. Nasta Presho Vatareshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke. Bhaktir Bhakti Naistiki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Nara Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Okay, good morning, everybody. All three of you. What's that? Yeah. And people, oh yeah, really? Is it us? Okay, well, welcome. Yeah. Okay, so today is June 8th, 2025, and we are reading Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 28, King Puranjana becomes a woman in his next life, and we're doing verse 52. Okay. Brahmana uvacha
Brahmanovacha
katvam kashyasi kovayam
Katvam kasyasi kovayam
shayano yasya shochasi
Shayano yasya shochasi
janasi kim sakayamam
Janasi king sakhayam mam
yena grevicha chartaha
Yena grevicha chartaha
Brahmana uvacha
Brahmanovacha
katvam kasyasi kovayam
Katvam kasyasi kovayam
shayano yasya shochasi
Shayano yasya shochasi
janasi kim sakayamam
Janasi king sakhayam mam
yena grevicha chartaha
Yena grevicha chartaha
Brahmana uvacha
Brahmanovacha
katvam kasyasi kovayam
Katvam kovayam
shayano yasya shochasi
Shayano yasya shochasi
janasi kim sakayamam
Janasi king sakhayam
yena grevicha chartaha.
Yena grevicha chartaha
Okay, please chant.
Brahmanovacha
Brahmana uvacha
Katvam kasyasi kovayam
atvam kasyasi kovayam
Shayano yasya sochasi
Shayano yasya shochasi
Janasi kim sakayamam
Janasi king sakhayam
Vinagre vichacharta
Yena grevicha chartaha.
chartaha Brahmanovacha
Brahmana uvacha
Katvam kasyasi kovayam
atvam kasyasi kovayam
Shayano yasya shochasi
shayano yasya chochasi
Janasi king sakhayam
janasi kim sakayamam
Yena grevicha chartaha
yena grevicha chartaha. You want to try? Brahmana uvacha katvam kasyasi kovayam shayano yasya shochasi janasi kim sakayamam yena grevicha chartaha. Jai. All right, word for word. Brahmana uvacha,
Brahmanovacha
the learned Brahmana said,
The learned Brahmana said,
Ka,
Ka,
who,
who,
Tvam,
Tvam,
you,
you,
Kasya,
Kasya,
whose,
whose,
Asi,
Asi,
are you,
are you,
Kaha,
Kaha,
who,
who,
Ba,
Va,
or, I am
I am
this man,
this man,
Shayanaha, lying down,
lying down,
Yasya,
Yasya,
for whom,
for whom,
Shochasi,
Joshi,
you are lamenting, Janasi, Kim,
Janasi Kim,
do you know,
do you know,
Sakayam,
Sakayam,
friend, Mam,
Mom,
me, Yena,
Yena,
with whom,
will,
Agre,
Agre,
formerly,
Holy,
Icha Charta,
Vichacharta,
you consulted,
you consult,
Ha,
Ha,
certainly.
certainly.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The Brahmana inquired as follows, who are you? Whose wife or daughter are you? Who is the man lying here? It appears you are lamenting for this dead body. Don't you recognize me? I am your eternal friend. You may remember that many times in the past you have consulted me. Please repeat. The Brahmana inquired as follows.
The Brahmana inquired as follows,
Who are you?
Who are you?
Whose wife or daughter are you?
Whose wife or daughter are you?
Who is the man lying here?
Who is the man lying here?
It appears you are lamenting for this dead body.
It appears you are lamenting for this dead body.
Don't you recognize me?
Don't you recognize me?
I am your eternal friend.
I am your eternal friend.
You may remember that many times
You may remember that many times
in the past you have consulted me.
in the past you have consulted me.
Purport. When a person's relative dies, renunciation is automatically visible. Consultation with the Supersoul seated within everyone's heart is possible only when one is completely free from the contamination of material attachment. One who is sincere and pure gets an opportunity to consult with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Paramatma feature, sitting within everyone's heart. The Paramatma is always the Chaita Guru, or the spiritual master within, and he comes before one externally as the instructor and initiator spiritual master. The Lord can reside within the heart, and he can also come out before a person and give him instructions. Thus, the spiritual master is not different from the Supersoul sitting within the heart. An uncontaminated soul or living entity can get a chance to meet the Paramatma face to face. Just as one gets a chance to consult with the Paramatma within his heart, one also gets a chance to see him actually situated before him. Then one can take instructions from the Supersoul directly. This is the duty of the pure devotee, to see the bona fide spiritual master and consult with the Supersoul within the heart. When the Brahmana asked the woman who the man lying on the floor was, she answered that he was her spiritual master and that she was perplexed about what to do in his absence. At such a time, the Supersoul immediately appears, provided the devotee is purified in heart by following the directions of the spiritual master. A sincere devotee who follows the instructions of the spiritual master certainly gets direct instructions from his heart, from the Supersoul. Thus, a sincere devotee is always helped directly or indirectly by the spiritual master and the Supersoul. This is confirmed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. If the devotee serves the spiritual master sincerely, Krishna automatically becomes pleased. Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada. By satisfying the spiritual master, one automatically satisfies Krishna. Thus, the devotee becomes enriched by both the spiritual master and Krishna. The Supersoul is eternally the friend of the living entity and always remains with him. The Supersoul has always been ready to help the living entity, even before the creation of this material world. It is therefore stated here, Yanagre Vichartaha. The word agre means before the creation. Thus, the Supersoul has been accompanying the living entity since before the creation. Om Jnana Timirandasam Janjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakara Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrachatan Sahagana Raghunatamatam Tam Sajivam Savadetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Chakapate Kopesha Topeka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurami Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakopatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namaste Jivana Tasya Trani Prabhupada Bhasi Savanani Kyan Ratan Namana Baskut All right, guy. Okay, so in this verse, we can see that Queen Vidarbhi, who is actually King Puranjana, but he was then, due to his attachment to his wife, he was born in a woman's body in his next life, and so he's Queen Vidarbhi. And Queen Vidarbhi, she's just lost her beloved husband. And she's building a funeral pyre to burn the body of her beloved husband. And suddenly a Brahmana appears and starts speaking to her. And this Brahmana starts asking her questions that we should all sort of be asking ourselves at times, but who are we? Whose wife or husband or daughter or son are you? And who are these people that we have these attachments for, right? These are things that we should be asking ourselves. But I think so many people, they go through life and they don't even ask, who really am I, right? They're just, accepting at face value that, okay, I am an American, I'm a woman, I have, a mother and a husband and, 3 kids or something, and they're not really thinking any deeper than that. But we should be thinking deeper than that. So I personally think this is like one of the sweetest parts of this pastime. I mean, it is the sweetest part of this pastime because this Brahmana is actually Krishna. It's actually the super soul coming in the form of the Brahmana, right? I just love this line. Don't you recognize me? I am your eternal friend. I mean, how beautiful is that? And that's what most of us want, right? Is a friend, a true friend. And the Paramatma is our true friend. So Krishna, in essence, he's asking Vidarbhi if she remembers her true eternal position, right? And Srila Prabhupada tells us in the purport that the Paramatma is the Chaita Guru, the Guru, the spiritual master that's within our heart. And this is represented within as this is from within as the Paramatma, and from without as the instructor or the spiritual master. So this great book, which I need to fix the cover on, but there's this nice passage here. This is just a book with all kinds of quotes about the spiritual master. I actually use this quite a bit. This is from the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's see here. A person in full Krishna consciousness acts by the dictation of Krishna. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, dictation is received through the transparent medium of the spiritual master. When one is sufficiently trained and acts in submissive faith and love for Krishna, under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, the dovetailing process becomes more firm and accurate. This stage of devotional service by the devotee in Krishna consciousness is the most perfect stage of the yoga system. At this stage, Krishna, or the Supersoul, dictates from within, while from without the devotee is helped by the spiritual master, who is the bona fide representative of Krishna. From within, he helps the devotee as Chaita, for he is seated within the heart of everyone. Understanding that God is seated within the heart, in everyone's heart, is not, however, sufficient. One has to be acquainted with God from both within and without, and one must take dictation from within and without to act in Krishna consciousness. This is the highest perfectional stage of the human form of life, and the topmost perfection of all yoga. So, yeah, we can see, huh? What did he say? He's hearing water? Oh, okay. Obviously, I'm not hearing anything. Okay, so from that, we can see that we need both, right? We need to be guided from within by the Paramatma, and we need to be guided from externally by the spiritual master. Now, Srila Prabhupada says in this port that one can meet the Paramatma face to face, right? Let's see, what does it say here in the purport? Yeah, an uncontaminated soul or living entity can get a chance to meet the Paramatma face to face, just as one gets a chance to consult the Paramatma within his heart one also gets a chance to see him actually situated before him. So who remembers a story where this happened from the Bhagavatam?
Just Dhruva.
Dhruva, yeah. Right. Good job, Chris. Yeah. And so, yeah, Dhruva, it's so amazing, right? Dhruva went to the forest to meditate because he actually wanted to, he wanted kind of a materialistic reason, but he took instructions from Narada Muni, who was his spiritual master, and then who told him to meditate. Who remembers the mantra? Yeah, I know you know, but okay. Yes, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And so he followed the instructions of Narada Muni and began meditating on the Lord within. And he began meditating on the Paramatma. And then suddenly, he's like just so having such a beautiful, meditation on the Lord within and seeing his beautiful form. And suddenly that meditation, like the form of the Lord disappeared out of his meditation, and he's like, what the heck? And he opens his eyes, and there he is standing in front of him. I mean, how amazing is that, right? You're just meditating on the Paramatma thing, and then suddenly you open your eyes, and there he is standing in front of you. Wow. And so only Dhruva saw him in his forearm form, right, instead of a Brahmana, whereas Vidarbhi is seeing him as a Brahmana. So yesterday, in the purport, that was a question raised in the purport. Well, why is it that Queen Vidarbhi is only seeing the Krishna in the form of a Brahmana? And let's see. Let's just go back and review it. And it says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, appeared before the Queen as a Brahmana, but why didn't he appear in his original form as Sri Krishna? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarked that unless one's very highly elevated and loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot see him as he is. Nonetheless, if one sticks to the principles enunciated by the spiritual master, somehow or other, he is in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what that means is that for us, most of us, that we can see the Paramatma externally as our spiritual master, right? And Srila Prabhupada also tells us, that we can be guided from within. And so I wanted to ask you guys, so what do you think? Is this what we would call our conscience? What do you think? Not you, but what do you think? So, how we can be guided from within by the Paramatma. Do you think that's what we commonly call our conscience?
I'm not going to speculate.
You're not going to speculate? All right. How about you, Chris?
Not for me. I'm very immoral, so it couldn't be my conscience. But I thought about this a lot.
Yeah.
I get definitely very good, sometimes life-saving guidance from inside. People call it intuition.
Yeah.
So some people call it luck. They don't even realize where it's coming from at all. They don't think it's coming from inside. They think it's all.
Yeah.
It can be an oracle. It can be a feeling. You just like when I'm making food, like how much of this spice do I put in? And I take it a little bit, and my internal guidance says just a little bit more.
Some people say that's the ancestors. Say how much of this spice to add. Well, until the ancestors tell you to stop.
So it comes in all different forms, and people have all different explanations for it.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. It's the Paramatma.
Okay, what do you think, Kirtaneshwar Garangadas?
Everything.
Because what?
Everything is done by the super soul. You want to do sinful activity, that's also given by the super soul. When you do nonsense, that's also super soul. So it's not conscious. Conscious is you set the right and wrong. And so, you want to do wrong, that's still a super service telling you how to do it.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, everyone's conscious is different. That is the point that I was going to bring up, is that everyone's conscious is different. I always called it listening to my gut, right? Had a gut feeling about something, or some people call it their instincts or whatever. And so this is a couple things. It could partially be guidance from Paramatma, but it's also, our conditioning, our past experiences, who we're associating with, right? It's just different for everyone. The conscience of, someone who's like a robber and the conscience of a devotee are very different, right? Like a robber might have different morals. A good example of this is not a robber, but the majority of the earth, the people on the earth, they don't feel like it goes against their conscience to eat meat, right? It doesn't go against their conscience. But for a devotee, we know that it's not something we want to take part in, right? Another example is from my own life. There's in my past, I was somewhat of a rascal, and my gut was telling me how I can manipulate other people to get what I want, right? So yeah, it's different for everyone. But as you become purified, you can really truly start to hear the Paramatma guiding you from within. So there was an example I heard that it was okay. It's sort of like a GPS. If you're in a parking garage, you're not going to really get the signal from your GPS, right? Because it needs to be able to talk to the satellites or whatever. And so, Maya, layers of Maya are kind of like, being in that parking garage. It's like layers of concrete over us. So we're not really quite able to hear that signal. It doesn't mean it's not there, right? Yeah, so yeah, because due to our past experiences and our conditioning, those are things that can cover us up, and so we're not able to quite hear that signal. So one thing that we have, well, it's actually three things that we have, that, sometimes you might have trouble saying, okay, well, is this just me thinking this, or is this really coming from the Paramatma, right? So how do we know? How do we know?
For me personally,
We can't really trust ourselves to be following Paramatma because it says the qualification of following Paramatma is constant devotional service.
Right.
We usually have to consult with Shastras and Guru.
Yes. Exactly. That is exactly my point. So that's how we know, is Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Because what I think is the Paramatma might be telling me, oh, yes, you know what you should do is you should, stop doing your service and learn to play guitar and become a rock star, right? But is that really Paramatma telling me that, or is that just like my ego telling me? The Paramatma tells you that every day? And why aren't you listening to it? Well, if the Paramatma is telling you that and you're not listening, that doesn't sound very good for you. But no.
When you get to be minded, you'll look back and regret that you followed.
So when you consult with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, does that agree with what the Paramatma is telling you to give up your service, learn guitar, and become a rock star? Well, you don't have to learn it, but I don't, so I would have to learn it. But it's funny, our Paramatmas are saying the same thing. Yeah.
I do know what the way you do Paramatma told him. Go to South America with the guitar and walk around your heart out. It's very sad. very efficient.
And walk around and do Harinam?
With the guitar, but that was that part. That was-
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is we're covered over by these layers, so we're not getting that clear signal, right? We might be getting, a little bit of the signal, but it's like we're stuck in a parking garage, under all those layers of concrete. We're not getting that signal, and so in order to truly understand, we consult with our guru, with the other sadhus, with the sastra, and when those things are in alignment, then we know, okay, this is really the Paramatma. So, let me see. Yeah. So the bona fide spiritual master, as I said before, that's the Paramatma externally. Srila Prabhupada, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. So there's this nice verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it talks about how the Lord can dictate, right, from within. And so in Adi Leela, chapter 8, verse 78, Krishnadas Kaviraj says, actually, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is not my writing, but the dictation of Sri Madan Mohan. My writing is like the repetition of a parrot. And so in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, this should be the attitude of all devotees. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead recognizes a devotee, he gives him intelligence and dictates how he may go back home, back to Godhead. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is the verse I just read. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. The opportunity to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is open to everyone because every living entity is constitutionally a servant of the Lord. To engage in the service of the Lord is the natural function of the living entity. But because he is covered by the influence of Maya, the material energy, he thinks it to be a very difficult task. But if he places himself under the guidance of the spiritual master and does everything sincerely, immediately the Lord, who is situated within everyone's heart, dictates how to serve him. The Lord gives this direction, and thus the devotee's life becomes perfect. Whatever a pure devotee does is done by the dictation of the Supreme Lord. Thus it is confirmed by the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that whatever he wrote was written under the direction of the Sri Madan Mohan deity. So in the following purport, Srila Prabhupada just kind of reiterates this position. This is the position of a pure devotee. One should not take any responsibility on his own, but should be a soul surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who will then give him dictation as the Chaita Guru, or the spiritual master within. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased to guide a devotee from within and without. From within, he guides him as the supersoul, and from without, he guides him as the spiritual master. So I've heard this several times in reference to book distribution, right? Like in book distribution, that when you're trying to distribute a book to somebody, that it's actually 3 against 1, right? There's you that wants to distribute the book to the person, and then there's your super soul, the super soul within you that wants this book person to take the book, and then there's the super soul within them that wants them to take the book, right? So really, it's 3 against 1, because then there's just that one person that may be having some resistance to it. And sometimes, they might be able to catch a little bit of that guidance and go ahead and take that book. So I have an example from my own life. I don't know 100% if it was the Paramatma, but it was just such a weird experience. And so I'll let you guys hear it and you can maybe tell me what you think. But many years ago, I was camping out. I used to camp out basically because I was homeless. I had nowhere to live. And I always had a Bible with me. I always did. And well, actually, I always had two. I don't know, I had two, but I always had two with me. And this one morning, I woke up and I just had this overwhelming, like, I guess it was an instruction that said, bring your Bible with you. And I remember thinking, like, I'm just going to the bathroom, which I had to kind of walk a little ways up to where these bathrooms were in the park. And I kind of was like sort of saying, why would I bring my Bible to the bathroom? You know, that's weird. And I just heard it stronger, you know, no, bring your Bible with you. Okay, fine, I'll just do it. So I brought it with me, and when I got to right by where the bathrooms were, there was this this very distraught old man sitting there. He was like another homeless man, and he was really distraught. And I said to him, I said, oh, you know, hi, how are you doing today? You know, good morning. And he said that he was so upset because he had just lost his Bible. And I said, oh, really? I said, well, I happen to have one right here. You can just have it. And I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. So that's a story from my own life. That for some reason, my heart was telling me to bring this Bible. I thought that was really strange. Why would I bring it to the bathroom? And there was someone there that really wanted one. So was that the super soul? I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so we have some examples from Srila Prabhupada where he's talking about receiving dictation from within. So this is from a lecture in Hawaii in 1974. And Srila Prabhupada says, so this Krishna consciousness movement, it is the duty of the guardians like Guru, like Father, like the state. They should look to the interest of the wards, subordinate, that he is developing his Krishna consciousness nicely. That is the duty. So when that duty is not done, just like we have no business to come so far, in Vrindavan, I could live very peacefully. There is 2 rooms still in the Radha Damodar temple, but because there is Krishna consciousness means serving the Lord. That is Krishna consciousness. So Krishna dictated, you're sitting here very peacefully without any botheration. No, you go to the Western countries, teach them. So that is also Krishna consciousness. Developed Krishna consciousness to render service to the ignorant of Krishna consciousness. Here's another example. This is, it says these are arrival comments in a car going to the temple. This is from 1976 in New York. So Rameshwara says, Tamal Krishna Maharaj gave one class this morning. So he was explaining that we cannot understand the good fortune of this city that you have come here. We cannot begin to estimate how fortunate this city is, Prabhupada said. Yes, when I decided I shall go to foreign countries, I never thought of going to London. I thought of coming here. Generally, they go to London. But I thought, no, I shall go to New York. Tamal Krishna said, very progressive. Prabhupada laughs. He said, I do not know. It is Krishna's dictation. I could have gone to London. London was nearer. But I thought, no, I shall go to New York. So in that way, we can see that Srila Prabhupada explicitly says he was receiving dictation from within. So Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So Krishna is the source of remembrance and forgetting, right? So sometimes maybe we've forgotten Krishna, but the Super Soul can remind us. And so the example I was going to give of this was Gajendra, right? You know, he was King Indrayumna, and he had upset a sage and got cursed to take a body as an elephant. And then he was having, by all accounts, seemed like a pretty nice elephant life. You know, he had some nice elephant wives, and they're sporting. An elephant harem, yeah. He had an elephant harem. That seems like, you know, most people, a lot of people that I know wouldn't mind having a harem, you know, whether they're an elephant or a human, you know. I see some thinking in the audience here.
It's a big responsibility.
It is a big responsibility, yeah. Is it a more or less responsibility to have a harem or a bunch of wives? I don't really know. Anyway, I don't know the finer points of what the roles are. But anyway, by all accounts, he had a pretty nice elephant life with all his she-elephants, and they're sporting in the water and they're having a nice time. And then suddenly he's attacked by that crocodile, and they fight for like thousands of years, or is it 1,000 years or thousands of years? Thousands of years, and they're fighting because although the elephant is so huge and so powerful, in the water he's at a little bit of a disadvantage. And although the crocodile is much smaller, the water, that's his home turf. And so he's just able to keep fighting with the elephant. And so pretty much, you know, Gajendra becomes very exhausted, and he realizes, oh my gosh, you know, this is it. this is you know, I might die here. And suddenly he remembers a prayer from his past life as a devotee. He was a great devotee king. And so he remembers, and he sees a lotus flower in the water, and he picks it, and he offers it up and says the prayer to Lord Vishnu. And then Lord Vishnu comes and kills the crocodile and saves him, right? And that was the Lord as Paramatma reminding him of his past life as a devotee, right? Because Krishna is the source of remembrance and forgetting. And I guess in conclusion, I want to go back to the point that we started with, that, you know, I just think this is so sweet, where Krishna is saying, don't you recognize me? I am your eternal friend. And that's what so many of us are looking for, right? Is a true friend. I mean, so, you know, there's the whole concept of social media, right? So you can like stay in touch with your friends, but it's turned into this horrible monster, right? Where it just kind of cheapens the idea of friendship. But, you know, there's this epidemic of loneliness, right? Because people really hunger for that, having that true connection with somebody else, that true friendship. And, you know, having a true friend is so important. You know, it's said, like, when people go through traumatic experiences, that, you know, it's often not the trauma itself that is so traumatizing, but the way that they're supported afterwards, you know, and if they're not supported afterwards, that's actually what is traumatizing. And so many people go through these traumatic experiences, and they don't have true friends and family to support them through these situations, and that in itself is what is traumatizing, right? So everybody wants that true friend. And here we can understand that Krishna, the Paramatma, is our true friend. He never abandons us. He's with us all the time. And not just in this life, but in all of our lives, right? And, you know, if we can truly understand that, we can take comfort in that and really work to build that friendship instead of working so hard to build these other friendships, you know, based on, you know, affinity for the same sports team, or, you know, whatever it is, you know. Oh, I when I was growing up, you know, and I would meet someone new, you know, you kind of interviewing them a little bit for potential, you know, the potential to be a friend. And the first question I always asked was, what kind of music do you listen to, right? That was always like the first question I wanted to know. But friendships based on those kind of things, they're not true friendships, right? But friendships based on service to Krishna, those are true friendships. And Krishna is the ultimate friend. So if we can just remember that and work towards cultivating that friendship, we'll be in a perfect position to have a good life, right? So with that, I think we'll end there. And if anybody has any comments or questions, I'm curious. I would like to hear if anybody has a story where they felt that they were being guided from within by the Paramatma. But if you don't have a story, like that's fine. Yes, Kirtaneshwar Garangada.
Yes, thank you. Nice class. Nice class. Yeah, I want to point out that the Super Soul is guiding us all the time to do whatever we need to do. You know, like even if we want to do some Maya, Super Soul is still guiding us. And so sometimes it becomes very evident that the Super Soul is telling you something, right? You're getting like messages, just like yesterday or Friday I was giving a class. And I was preaching to myself, you know, like most of the time we preach to ourselves. And I'm going to talk about this self-sacrifice. And then Lavanga sent me a message because she was watching my class. She sent me a message. She sent me a very heavy purport by Srila Prabhupada that was like a very sobering thing I needed to hear. I kind of didn't want to hear it, you know, but I had to hear it about the need to self-sacrifice for the Guru. And then I was like, all right, near Jalakadasi, I'm putting that in the back burner for now. I don't want to think about it. Then later that evening, we were picking random verses from the Bhagavatam. And we picked a verse and it was 6:10:6. And then as we read the verse, then they were reading the purport and I realized that it was the same exact purport that Lavanga had sent me. So Super Soul was once again telling me this. And I felt, you know, like scared actually, because it's like, well, it's the same thing that my guru is saying also, you know, and it's a scary, tall order. So sometimes it's hard to listen to Super Soul. Actually, we don't want to listen to it, but he's always talking. We don't always want to listen.
Jai, very nice. What did the purport say? What was the general message of the purport?
Said that all nice young boys who are sufficient in knowledge should give up their entire lives for the propagation of Krishna consciousness. Essentially, that's what it said.
All right. Yeah, I'll ask for the.
So in your class, did you discuss the last few sentences of the purport about how Prabhupada's saying that even before the creation, the Super Soul is, what does he say? Has been accompanied since before the creation. Did you talk about that at all?
I mean, nope, I didn't bring that up. I mean, I'd said that super souls are eternal friend. I mean, and that
Right.
he's always with us, you know, for all eternity.
Because in Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness, there's one purport where Prabhupada is very clear that the Super Soul is not eternal. He's Krishna's monitoring us in the material world.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need for the Super Soul in the spiritual world because you're face to face with Krishna and your desires are all to please Krishna. So, okay, I just don't know how to square that.
I was thinking about it. Actually, someone asked that question like we did last night.
Uh-huh.
And I was thinking about it already. That question brought up. Of course, the answer that Super Soul is not in the spiritual world. I was thinking about this. I was thinking perhaps before the creation, meaning that Super Soul was with us in the last creation.
Oh, still the material world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before this creation, the last
Uh-huh.
creation.
Yeah.
That's how I rationalized it.
Yeah.
And he's with us in the spiritual world as Krishna.
Yeah, exactly. But not Super Soul. He's there. Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a possibility. Okay.
All right. Does anyone else have any comments or stories of the super soul guiding them from within?
I would say this because yeah.
10 minutes. So, of course, when I was 15, I got my Bhagavad Gita. I liked it. I loved it. And I love George Harrison. All Things Must Pass album. I listen to it every day for some reason or another. And then after reading the Bhagavad Gita, I realized that all these songs were about Krishna. They weren't about girls. And that was a big revolution for me because I realized I never knew you can feel that way about God.
Yeah.
I always knew you had to fear him.
But I didn't realize you can, especially the song "I Live for You," and it hit me like, wow, it makes so much more sense that it's about God and not about a woman.
Yeah.
And then when I went to college, I met some devotees, some non-ISKCON devotees in Sedona, and I went to a kirtan and liked it. And so then I became really obsessed with Krishna. And I had a picture of Krishna on my phone as my background. And as I was walking through the campus that day, I was looking at the Krishna picture, and I prayed to Krishna. I said, Krishna, I want to know you better. And then right as I said that prayer, I had that thought, I heard a voice yell, have you heard of Krishna? And I looked to the right, and I felt that was Super Soul right there, because that was Govinda Datta Prabhu, who is my Shiksha guru in a lot of ways, and a guru, very guru figure. And right then and there, he had some beads on his neck, some neem beads, and he put them on my neck. I just walked up to him. I said, I've heard of Krishna, and I showed him the picture, and then he put these neem beads on my neck. I didn't know what they were, and he just told me how to chant Hare Krishna. And so that was Super Soul right there. I have no doubt.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have a good one. When I was in my early 20s, I was always saying to myself, I wanted a boyfriend. When you're young, you want boyfriends, So I was always saying to myself, I want a boyfriend who plays the flute. I swear to God, I want a boyfriend who plays the flute. And nobody, I knew one guy Craig, who played acoustic guitar, and he played a little bit of the flute, but didn't quite cut it, I was in the back seat of a car, and my friends were driving. And I mean, this was a real desire. Where's that? I just want this boyfriend who plays the flute. All of a sudden it hit me. Krishna plays the flute. That's when I heard a little bit about the devotees. Yeah, it was a real, what do you call it? Realization. Yeah, I was like, I said it out loud. I said, Krishna plays the flute. Yeah, it was really cool.
Oh, that's wonderful. I have a little bit of a similar story, not as nice as yours, wishing for a boyfriend that plays the flute. But before, for most of my life, I was pursuing God in one form or another. But at this one particular point in my life, I had been trying with Christianity for so long, and I kind of felt like I couldn't get as deep as I wanted to, in a relationship with God, and so then I was feeling quite desperate. So I started trying like all kinds of different things, even though I sort of instinctually knew like demigod worship was like not really where it's at. I started like, okay, well maybe I should try to worship some demigods, and so I was doing it, and then I was like, well, some people, worship their ancestors. So then I'm like, okay, maybe I should try that. And even though I kind of knew like that's not where it was, but I was like so desperate that I was trying anything. And so this one day, I was really frustrated because I wasn't able to like make any progress. And I was in my room, and I had contact with the devotees off and on, like. But I had been given books a few times, but I had not actually had the chance to read any of them. And so then one day I'm in my room, and I was very frustrated with, how I couldn't make any progress. And I'm trying to get like a shirt or something stuck under my dresser, and I'm pulling this shirt out from under my dresser, and it's like moving the dresser because it's really stuck in there. And what do you know? The book that one of the devotees gave me was sitting on top of my dresser, and it fell off the dresser right into my lap. Wow. And it was the SSR. And then I finally thought, you know what, maybe I should read this. The Science of Self-Realization. Yeah. And so, yeah, huge picture. I remember I used to stare at that picture actually, and so I read that book, and I would just stare at that picture and read that book, and I started chanting and all kinds of, I ended up subscribing to Back to Godhead magazine, And then finally, I bought the Bhagavad Gita and I read that and I was like, okay, what's next? And it's like, oh, the Srimad Bhagavatam. I looked on Amazon and I was like, well, I can't afford that, And so then I wrote a letter. I was like, wait, I got that book at Govinda's. I'm going to write an email. So I wrote an email and Mother Sundami responded and said, yeah, I said, I just want the first book of the Bhagavatam. And she said, yeah, come on down, we'll get you that book. And so I came, and then the very first person I met was Kirtaneshwar Gauranga Das, and he sold me that first part of the Srimad Bhagavatam and a little Krishna pendant. Yeah, you were Chris at that time. And then it was like not even a month or two later, I moved into the temple. So. And I've been here ever since.
Christians really moving.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's more signs before that too. So like a whole long journey, but that was like the most blatant. I mean, it literally fell in my lap, right as I was like, why, I'm trying to get closer to God. None of these things are working. I'm not making any progress. And yet, okay, here you go. Yeah, right here. I'm right here. Take me. Yeah. So, and the other thing, and then we'll end, is that during that time when I was reading the Science of Self-Realization, like you said, it has that beautiful picture of the Paramatma on the front. And so I was reading, and I used to take the bus every day. So I'm reading it on the bus, and like people were so attracted to it. People kept coming up to me asking me, what is that? What is that about? And I said, I don't know, I'm still reading it. I said, but you could get one. I said, it's great, you need to get one. And I would tell people, they have them at Govinda's. I don't know if anybody ever got it. And then I had this idea, I wanted to just like distribute books on the bus because of that experience. But COVID ended up happening, and so it didn't go
Does
through.
anybody know the story of John Ronnie when she was visiting his storefront? She lived way in Brooklyn, a long journey to the storefront. And John Ronnie thought she was God. She thought everybody was God. And she said to Prabhupada, the Prabhupada asked her, do you live close by? And John Ronnie goes, oh, I live very, very close. And Prabhupada said, oh, so you can come to our program every morning. And John Ronnie said, all of a sudden thought to myself, actually, I don't live very close. I live out the way in Brooklyn. Tell me that story first. I don't know, it's pretty funny.
All right, so we'll end there. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
She was super high last year when she met Prabhupada.
Yeah.